The future isn't missing. It was buried, systemically, deliberately. And the name of that future is post-scarcity. Not a fantasy, not a dream. A proven, demonstrable outcome of existing scientific principles and known engineering. First made feasible not in the 2020s, not even in the 1990s, but in the mid-20th century. The lie is that we're waiting on some final technological miracle. We're not. We've had the technology to build a materially abundant, automated global civilization since at least the 1960s. The only reason it hasn't been built is because doing so would annihilate the power structure that rules you. Understand this. Post-scarcity isn't a vision of excess. It's a condition in which the material needs of all human beings can be met without toil, debt, or coercion. The barriers are no longer physical. They're political, philosophical, psychological. Every time a cynic scoffs and says, Utopia is impossible, they're not defending realism. They're parroting a worldview forged by scarcity economists, Cold War strategists, and oligarchs whose empires depend on artificial deprivation. From an Enlightenment socialist perspective, the very concept of scarcity must be re-examined. Classical liberalism, for all its virtues, emerged in a pre-industrial world. It took scarcity as axiomatic. Land, labor, and capital were locked in zero-sum conflict. But Marx, despite his flaws, saw through the fog that the forces of production, once liberated, could dissolve the antagonisms that created class itself. Post-scarcity is not a break from Enlightenment thinking. It is its logical conclusion. A civilization where liberty, equality, and solidarity are no longer rationed, where dignity is a birthright, not a reward. Now, here's the raw scientific basis. By the 1940s, we had the theoretical blueprints for closed-loop automation, mass electrification, synthetic food production, and early-stage recycling. The invention of the transistor in 1947 didn't just launch computing. It signaled the possibility of replacing vast amounts of human labor with energy-driven processes. By the 1960s, we had nuclear power, high-speed rail, hydroponics, modular housing concepts, and cybernetic theories of systems management, entirely capable of being combined into a fully integrated resource management system that could support every human being on Earth at a first world standard. Jacque Fresco wasn't a futurist. He was a realist. His circular cities weren't fantasy art. They were rigorous architectural responses to a world where human need no longer required markets to be met. Buckminster Fuller proposed that humanity had already crossed the threshold into an age where it could do more with less, and design living systems based on synergy instead of competition. The reason these men were ignored wasn't because their ideas didn't work. It's because they did. In the same era, the United States built the interstate highway system, put a man on the moon, and deployed nuclear-powered submarines that could circle the Earth underwater for months without refueling. These are not the hallmarks of a species waiting for technological readiness. They are the footprints of a civilization that had already arrived at the post-scarcity doorway and turned around. Why? Because scarcity serves capital, and capital owns government. Scarcity enforces wage labor, rent, competition, and desperation. It turns human beings into economic units instead of free agents. And when the Cold War created a justification for military megabudgets, secrecy, and repression, any serious effort to reroute scientific innovation toward abundance was branded naive at best, subversive at worst. The post-war era had every material tool needed to begin the transition. Instead, we got neoliberalism, perpetual war, and consumer addiction. The very structure of modern capitalism depends on artificial scarcity, planned obsolescence, intellectual property, monopolies, land speculation, food destruction, and wage suppression. The myth of not enough is maintained to ensure that everything flows through controlled gates, housing through landlords, health through insurers, energy through cartels, time through bosses. Meanwhile, solar panels get cheaper every year. Desalination costs plummet. Vertical farms bloom in warehouses. Automation eats jobs after job, but the surplus it creates is hoarded. The Enlightenment taught us that the purpose of government is to serve the people. Today, it serves the hoarders, but post-scarcity realism isn't about smashing wealth out of spite. It's about building a civilization where wealth no longer needs to be hoarded. A world where housing is manufactured on demand with recycled materials, where food is grown in climate-stabilized facilities year-round, where energy flows freely from renewables and safe nuclear, where no one begs for the basics, because the basics are no longer rationed by profit motives. What does this demand from us? Nothing miraculous, only that we stop lying to ourselves, that we acknowledge abundance is real and being withheld, that we reclaim the Enlightenment not as a museum piece, but as a living mandate to liberate humanity from arbitrary power. Just as feudalism collapsed under the weight of the printing press and the industrial loom, so too must capitalism collapse under the weight of its own obsolete gatekeeping. Post-scarcity is not utopia. It's the minimum threshold for calling ourselves civilized. If liberty means anything, it must mean freedom from starvation, from exposure, from economic coercion. If equality means anything, it must mean a world where a child born in the slums has access to the same material life as one born in luxury. If solidarity means anything, it must mean we build systems where we rise together, not compete to escape each other's drowning. We don't need to dream harder. We need to stop forgetting what's already been built. The blueprints are real. The machines exist. The physics check out. Post-scarcity isn't a hope. It's a suppressed reality. And it's time we resurrect it.